Most people still think muscle was built through sweat, soreness, and slapping more weight on the bar every week. But that mindset and that approach, it's keeping a lot of people frustrated by their results. If you're training hard and still not seeing the kind of physique or strength you know you're capable of, this might be the missing link. My name is Dylan. I'm a high performance coach, strength and conditioning coach of 10 years, multiple gym owner, and coach of a lot of champions. And I'm obsessed with what actually gets people results, not bro science, not just blindly following what everybody else says. This is about real hypertrophy backed by data and forged in the gym. Today I'm going to break down what Dr. Brad Schoenfeld, the most respected muscle scientist on the planet, goes over in his research, and also what he calls the #1 driver of muscle growth, which is mechanical tension. Now, forget chasing soreness, forget punishing yourself with random volume. We're here to train like the pros. In this video, you'll learn why the old hypertrophy model was flawed, how mechanical tension actually works and how to create it, and why effort matters more than weight. How this unlocks total freedom in your training and how you can actually have more variation and more freedom. The new muscle growth hierarchy and a system that you can follow to progressively increase the results you get from your training, and practical cues to start building lean muscle immediately. If you've ever trained and hard and seen minimal results, this is your line in the sand. Let's build a body that performs, not one that just sweats. Let's dive in. So the old hypertrophy model was called the hypertrophy triad, and back in 2010, Brad Schoenfeld and the guy that has done probably the most research on hypertrophy in the world proposed three main mechanisms for muscle building: mechanical tension, muscle damage, and metabolic stress. Muscle damage is what happens when you train a muscle hard enough that it feels sore. Okay, that's that sore feeling you get. Metabolic stress is when you do enough reps so that you get that burn, that lactate pump. That is essentially what muscle stress is. Without going under all of the mechanisms, there is a lot to it, but those are the two things that people used to think, grew muscle. The crazy thing is, those are more of a byproduct rather than the actual mechanism, and mechanical tension seems to be, at this point right now, the most important thing relating to hypertrophy. Muscle damage, mostly a byproduct, not a driver. Metabolic stress, helpful but not essential. And mechanical tension is the king of hypertrophy. Now, Dr. Schoenfeld and much of the field now agree that tension is the trigger. Okay, so you may get muscle damage, you may get metabolic stress, or you may get the burn or the pump, but tension is the trigger. And it's not just about how heavy you lift, it's about how hard the muscle is working under tension. And so probably the first thing we need to understand is, what is mechanical tension? Okay, and so someone like me, I'm sure I'm dyslexic or something along those lines, where I find it really difficult to understand quite simple terms. And so mechanical tension is something that I understand what it means. When you're training a muscle hard, it is getting enough tension on it. There's enough, force on that muscle that it's going to create tension. But if you actually look at it from this perspective, you'll get a clearer understanding. Think of your muscle like a rubber band. The more you stretch it under load and control it, the more force or tension it experiences. And now, tension is created by a few things, okay? Moving slowly and intentionally. And there are multiple benefits outside of just growing muscle by moving slowly or controlling a weight or an exercise. Also, using a full range of motion. It's more likely that you're going to get more hypertrophy stimulus when the muscle is under a greater stretch, and you're going to get most of those benefits when you train through a full range of motion. You also need to take sets near to failure. Okay, so 0 to 3 reps left in the tank. What that basically means is that, let's say you have 10 reps. If someone was to say, hey, I'm going to, I am going to stay here with a gun pointed to your head until you get the absolute maximum reps. You should only be able to do, 1 to 3 more reps, and that would be close to failure. Okay, and so one thing I'd love to add here, and this might surprise a few people, is there is more to training and life than growing muscle. Okay, and so a lot of the benefits that you'll get from training increase, and from resistance training in particular, is you can get an increase in mobility, you can get an increase in joint and tendon resiliency, you can get an increase in fitness also. So just focusing on purely what grows muscle, is sort of like a limited way of thinking about training. But when you train through the points that do drive mechanical tension, or the points that do drive a lot of hypertrophy stimulus, you're actually getting a lot of other benefits as well. So what they've also found is that even lightweights can build muscle if they generate high enough muscle tension. So people used to just think somewhere between probably 6 to 10 reps, you're lifting heavy enough where you can stimulate the muscle. Where I believe that why doing something like a 30 rep max is going to be really, really difficult to drive muscle tension is most people just get bored, or most people just can't work that hard for 30 reps. And it is quite a bit easier to push a strength exercise or push an exercise for somewhere between 5 to 10 reps. It's probably quite a bit easier to stay focused, have good technique, and also push hard enough for that amount of time. And the number one rule for this is we want to chase the stimulus, not the soreness and not the pump. And let's have a look at some of the research highlights. So in 2021, Dr. Schoenfeld and his peers found that mechanical tension equals the primary driver because the fiber level tension is essential for muscle growth. Load helps, but effort and control are the multipliers. So you need to progressively overload the muscle. You need to progressively increase the amount of tension on the muscle. And how you do this is by one, controlling the exercise, and then also two, progressively adding a little bit more weight to it, train through the same range of motion. So let's say, for example, if you were to add weight, but you decrease your range of motion because your technique's not good, you may not be getting the same amount of stimulus as you were from a slightly lighter load with more control for a better range of motion. And so make sure that number one thing is having that mechanical tension, controlling a heavy enough weight to go close to failure with good technique and with good control. Range and tempo enhance tension, and this was from a 2020 study. So full range of motion essentially equals more stimulus. So you're going to get more out of a full range of motion exercise versus a shorter range. So let's take something like, say, a box squat versus something like a pendulum squat. A box squat, you are going to get quite a good neural stimulus because generally you can load it a bit more, but the knee angle is generally at about 90 degrees. Something like a pendulum squat, where you are taking the joint through its fullest range of motion possible, is you're going to get much more stretch on the quads, you're potentially going to get a lot more stretch on the glutes, and you're just going to get more stimulus from that full range of motion. Slow eccentrics also increase the effective time under tension. Now, there is some debate in regards to time under tension now. But my argument for controlling the eccentric would be that you're going to have, in general, you're going to work through a better movement quality, which means your technique is going to stay relatively the same. You're going to improve your intra and intermuscular coordination by giving your muscles and nervous system time to learn that motor pattern. And over time, you're going to be able to push that motion, that exercise even harder. And so slow eccentrics, while there is potentially no difference in hypertrophy between slow and fast, the difference comes from your ability to control that exercise and get the most stretch out of it. And there is also a really, really strong argument that controlling the eccentric, getting more time under while you're getting that muscle under strength, is going to thicken the tendons as well. It's going to desensitize the Golgi tendon organ, which means you're going to be able to contract the muscle harder down the track So if you set yourself up with some good quality eccentric training over time, you'll be able to get more and more out of your training as well. High reps also work. So in 2019, they did a meta-analysis, and at the time, most people you just have to go heavier, okay? And this is my argument where something like Pilates actually does make you toned, okay? And so here's the thing, and we have to look for clues because, and people always sort of go against this sort of stuff, like Pilates doesn't make you toned. Well, if you're going close to failure, and you're doing reps of, let's say you're doing 30 reps on a Pilates exercise, and you're just absolutely burning, you're like, if you were to do 5 more reps, you'd be shaking like a leaf. You are going to get the same effort. You are going to get the same stimulus as if, say, you did 6 reps. And so my argument for sports like CrossFit, for athletic performance, you do 21 reps of a thruster and you're almost on the floor bloody gasping for air. While it may not be localized hypertrophy, that overall hypertrophy and going close to failure, even with those high reps, is still going to give you a strong stimulus. And I would argue that's why a lot of CrossFitters look quite jacked, because they're often going to, 2 to 3 reps in the tank so that they can get the most out, but also recover to do big amounts of work. And when you look at athletic performance too, sprinters, 400 meter runners, and anyone who plays a sport like volleyball, you're often jumping and putting the muscles under fatigue, which, if you were to do enough reps, you are going to go close to failure. And this is why often athletes have great physiques, without doing a lot of strength work. Given they do a lot of strength work as well, but there is that stimulus, and I'll go into a little bit of that as well. Now, volume is just an opportunity to apply tension, and so you can get away with quite a minimal amount of volume if you really do push your sets hard, okay? And so, I've used the method where I got some great growth from a training, just literally 1 set to failure. And more sets may equal, it gives you more tension chances, but it doesn't always equal more hypertrophy, because junk volume is junk volume, and quality trumps quantity. So say, for example, the 1 set to failure. You might do 2 or 3 warm-up sets, okay? But those 2 or 3 warm-up sets don't actually mean too much. But when you get that 1 set where you go, 12 reps to failure, rest 15 seconds, and then go a couple more reps, you're getting some huge amounts of tension across the muscle, with a minimum effective dose in terms of volume as well. So quality will always trump quantity. And if you're pushing your training hard, you're going to get most of the stimulus anyway. The cool thing about this, once you understand those principles and once you actually understand what all of that means, it opens up a world of variation, okay? And so the fun part about this, once you understand those principles, your training options explode. You're no longer chained to 1 rep range or stuck chasing soreness. Instead, you get to train smart with a lot of freedom. And we actually have taken on our neurotyping system, our brain chemistry system, which we've used for the last 5 years. And we actually know that, to get a response or to get a stimulus, all you have to do is have methods that are going to do the job, but you're also motivated by, because you enjoy the style of training. And when we pair those 2 things, methods that actually work, and then also methods that you enjoy, your results just go through the roof. And we do actually have our brain chemistry test. I'll link to the bottom down below if you want to go through that. Just chuck it in there and it'll tell you exactly what training, what nutrition that is likely to be the most motivating for you and get you the best results. So it's in the description, check that out there. So one of the things about this is you can mix up your methods. You can use things like straight sets, clusters, pauses, tempos. You can vary your reps. You can go heavy, moderate, or high, as long as the tension is high. You could do a couple of strength training days a week. You could do a couple of Pilates days a week. You could do a couple of athletic ones. You could literally just do powerlifting. You could literally just do bodybuilding. The options are endless, okay? And so What you can also do is rotate movements without losing progress if you like a lot more variation, or if you like to stay on the same stuff, if you like to just be like, hey, look, I know this exercise, I know I can push it hard, I just need the structure and to be pointed in the right direction, you can stick to that as well, as long as you apply those principles. And this also gives you more than just muscle, okay? And so heavier training for 3 to 6 reps gives you a bit more neural efficiency or a bit more of a neural stimulus. And so why we love to mix up our rep ranges is because we know that if we teach your nervous system, or if we push your nervous system hard in terms of some heavier, actually higher threshold reps, we're going to recruit more muscle fibers over time with more intensity. And then when we go to something like a medium range or a light or a high rep range, we can get more out of each rep because we have the efficiency to recruit more muscle and fire those muscles a lot harder and a lot faster. The mid-rep range, 4 to 10 reps. Accessories build volume and shape. Okay, so where we use this generally on muscles that you can't, it's hard to train with good form for low reps. Say for example something like a lateral raise. It's really hard to get a lot of stimulus with 4 reps. So doing something for anywhere between 6 to 20 reps is going to be really good for an accessory exercise. Now, high reps as well, okay, so 10 to 30 reps. This will improve tissue quality. So say, for example, something like, a 30 rep leg extension can be great for the patella tendon. Okay, something like a 30 rep banded hamstring curl. Great warm-up exercise and a great activation exercise if you're doing something with your hamstrings. But it also starts to thicken and load the tendon as well, because tendons in particular, they take a lot of work they need a lot of volume to actually be able to grow and produce enough stimulus to actually make them want to grow, because they are avascular, they don't get a lot of nutrients, they don't get a lot of blood flow, and they just respond really well to really, really high volume work. So that's where that can help. It's also going to give your tissues a bit more capacity as well. One other things that we've used really, really well is plyometrics and ballistic work, okay? So this helps sharpen your neuromuscular system. And I sort of realized, like, with the athletes that came in, a lot of our professional athletes, which I found really surprising, is when they come in, they weren't actually very good at the gym. Like their strength standards were, our girls who just literally sat at the desk all day and came in and trained, had way bigger strength numbers than these professional athletes. But they were extremely efficient in terms of their ability to move, their ability to recruit muscle and move things fast. As soon as we gave them some quality strength work, everything went up very, very quickly. And so we actually did the opposite. We used more athletic movements and we used more athletic types of training for our general population ladies, and we found that their muscle growth, their performance, everything went up as well. And so we just sort of like blended the two, and it was really, really cool. Mechanical tension isn't a limitation, it's a liberation once you know how to use it. And here's a bit of a practical application of, if you follow this pyramid and growth hierarchy, you'll find that you're actually going to get the most out of your training. So number 1, mechanical tension. Pick an exercise that you can take, an exercise or a method that you can take close to failure, okay? Number 2 is make sure that exercise or method can be controlled through a full range of motion with good controlled tempo. Then number 3, pick an appropriate volume and frequency so that you can get enough sets and reps and technical skill frequency so that you can actually get better at that exercise and push it really, really hard. Number 4 is to have periodized progressions, okay? So phases, deloads. Most people, what will happen is, especially if you've never had a proper program before, and this is quite often where we've had a lot of clients who have been training for a couple of years, just doing their own thing, going to the gym, got half decent results. As soon as we put them into a proper program, their results just go through the roof, because they've got proper phasing. Their training is layered in a way that sets them up, allows them to have better technique, better tissue quality, and then all of a sudden all they have to do is train hard and they get some wicked results. Number 5 is once you've mastered those first 4, once you can go close to mechanical tension, you can get through a full range of motion controlled tempo, you have the appropriate volume and frequency from proper programming, you can go into advanced methods, use supersets, drop sets, stuff that really will, fast track your growth, especially as you get more advanced. You do need methods like that challenge you in novel and new ways. So a couple of quick cues that have really helped over the years and helped our clients get great results is, number 1 is you want to feel the muscle stretch and contract. And now one thing is, okay, if you have more of a machine-based exercise, you're probably going to feel the muscle more. If you have something like a barbell-based exercise, you're going to see the muscle lengthen and strengthen if you've got good technique, but you may not necessarily feel it. So when you do, a performance-based method, you will feel, you're going to go through the movement rather than feeling the movement. So you're going to perform the movement rather than feeling the movement. That doesn't mean you're not getting mechanical tension. Okay, and this is where a lot of people are like, I don't feel the burn, or I don't feel my muscles are sore, I feel like I haven't done anything. Look, I can look at your squat, for example, and be like, look, your velocity or the speed of your bar is slowing down. I can tell you're definitely getting the right stimulus, even if you don't feel it the next day. Okay, and so this is where understanding what actually works and understanding for coaching eye can be really useful. Number 1 is control the tempo. So control on the way down, explode up. Okay, control on the way down, explode up. You're going to get a lot from it. If you're doing something like a dumbbell press, okay, a chest press, control down, feel the squeeze, and then press, and you'll feel that muscle contract. That can be very useful as well. Train 0 to 3 reps from failure. Basically, you want to see yourself slow down without any less effort. Okay, so some people just like slow down, but what you actually have to do is you have to start to slow down without any less effort. Use a full range of motion. You should be able to see a big range of motion in your joints. It's not always the most important thing. Minimize junk reps and momentum. Big thing is like, don't cheat the reps. Do the reps properly and you'll get more from it. Best cue, if it looks easy, it's probably doing its job as long as you follow what's working. But it has to have effort. Final takeaway, you don't need to lift like a powerlifter to build muscle, but you can. You just need to apply effortful tension in every single rep. So if your reps aren't near failure, if you're not controlling the load, if your reps feel too easy, and there's a difference between something feeling hard and actually being hard, especially as you get more, especially as you go from like new to intermediate, you'll start to understanding. You're leaving growth on the table. If you want help applying this, chuck down below and jump onto our brain chemistry app to see what training and nutrition will suit you. It's an absolute game changer when you've got training that actually works and is paired for what will motivate you. That's in the thing. If you haven't already, please do subscribe, and I appreciate any feedback, any questions, any comments down below. Hope you enjoyed that. Talk soon.